What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL. Joined as always by my main man, Jonathan Holder. Jonathan, what's going on, brother?
Man, first day back from work after a week and a couple days vacation. It was not a fun time, but it's fun now that I get to sit and talk some Falcons football with folks.
There you go. I've long been a proponent of vacations almost tend to be more work than they're worth. And what I mean by that is like if you go out of town, all the stuff that you got to like gather to make that happen, or if you do like staycation, you're sitting there just chilling with your feet up at the house.
Yep,
Then you go back to work, and now you got to play catch up for the week that you were gone. So,
1,800 emails worth of catch up.
right, like I don't have that type of job, thank God. But I have walked back into work with a stack of delivery tickets going, here you go, bud. And I'm like, so
It's like,
yeah,
was nobody else able to do this while I was gone?
exactly.
Nobody could drive this truck.
Yep, that's it. That's it.
Like,
Um,
did all the construction jobs just all of a sudden just be like, well, JR's not here.
that's it. That's it. We're
Nothing
done.
we can do.
Can't get anything.
When he takes vacation, we take vacation because we can't do squat.
Well, see, that's gonna be me next week because we're going camping in the early part of next week. So we'll reiterate again. There probably won't be a show next week, more than likely, because I'll be sitting on a lake somewhere, and Jonathan will be taking it easy on a Tuesday as well. But today we do have a handful of things to jump into to talk about. So without much further ado, let's just get into it. Alberto says, fellows, what's good? Respects to y'all keeping it every week updating. We try. It
Yep.
gets tougher this time of year. Um, he said, I've been taking breaks from football. When football season begins, heart attacks and screaming and cheering will drain me. Yeah, I am right there with you, Alberto. Yeah, as we get into like what I would call the dog days of the dregs of the NFL off season, um, we probably will be taking a few more breaks just because, like, other than me and I mean, unless something happens, right? Like if something big, happens or something interesting pops up, then yeah, we'll definitely be on to talk about it. But um, we might, like I said, we may take a few more breaks than normal. Um, Jermaine says, yo,
Yo, yo,
yo. GTX boy says, what's good, pound for pound? Just hey,
all of it.
it's a Tuesday. We are enjoying it. Our good buddy VTW says, what's up, Jonathan and JR? What's up,
What
man?
up, guys? So I know VTW was in a couple of the streams that I did on Saturdays, and I haven't done in the past couple Saturdays. I know I told you I was going to this past Saturday, but some family stuff popped up and was unavoidable. Just some family who were not considerate with their timing on like, hey, there's this get together that you need to be here for, and I was like, oh,
Hey, man, family can be like that sometimes.
yep,
Um, Travis says, rise up on a Tuesday. That's right. Rise up on a Tuesday.
rise up. Every
So
day is Tuesday. Rise up.
there it is. So we were, it's 100 days until kickoff.
Yep.
Now it's technically 103 days until the Falcons kick off because the first game kicks off on a Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken, um, which is the Ravens and the Chiefs. So, but it's 103 days until we kick off. So I thought that was cool that we get to do a show, that kind of
Yeah.
a milestone. But it does bring up the fact that um, we got quite a ways to go before we even get to training camp. Now, this time last year, when we have done this show on this particular day, uh, we would be able to talk about a practice that just happened at the bins. Well, that just happened. We weren't allowed to go this time, which
Yep.
kind of sucked.
Well, we got that's
Uh,
what August 2nd, right?
we get the one on August 2nd. Um, but I was hoping for the past 2 years, they've done one at the end of May,
Right.
second open practice. But I guess we're still trying to put together the off season or what have you. We're still trying to get together get the offense on rolling and the defense rolling with new staffs. Maybe they weren't necessarily ready to like display that to the public just yet.
Yeah.
But we did get some like good photos and good videos. It really seems like Kirk Cousins is developing a connections with, Kyle Pitts. Or okay. This is where I get into like the um like conspiracy theory type stuff, or like I have a propensity to try to read between the lines. Maybe it's because I've been doing this thing for too long. And what I mean by that is this whole like uh this whole uh talking about the Falcons or what have you. But so here's pictures from the Ben's practice. Uh but it seems like the social media team has been pumping a lot of. There's one picture I wanted to get to. Maybe now I'm gonna do all this and I ain't gonna be able to find it. You know that, right?
Yep.
But
That's how it works.
that tends to be whatever. It was a really good picture of Kyle Pitts, and that's what I was kind of getting to. Does it seem like to you that that's it right there, that the Falcons are pushing a lot of like Kyle Pitts content as far as the videos that are released? I mean, because Kirk Cousins is throwing 100 plus passes each of these OTA practices. They're filming all of it,
Yeah.
right? And somebody is going, "Hey, let's put let's put this one out," right? Because they're always like cold and calculated, so to speak, about what they release on their like social media.
As they should be.
Right. I mean, it's the brand, right? And
Yeah.
so a lot of the videos have been, of Kyle Pitts getting the ball. And so I wanted to get what are your thoughts on that? Am I just reading too much into it?
I mean, probably. But I see what I can see. When you see a pattern as just at an instinctual level, that is what we like to do as humans. We like to look for patterns.
Correct.
Those that they are pleasing to us when we find them. So when you sense a pattern, then yeah, it's not that it's not there, right? They are doing. And my guess would be is Drake London. Yeah, you could say whatever about Drake, but for the most part, has he been like the best wide receiver in the league? No, but has he produced as far as numbers go? Yeah, he's been pretty productive. Okay,
Mhm.
Tyler Algier, he had the 1,000-yard rookie season. Still did pretty well last year. And then you got Bijan Robinson, who led all rushers attack. So it's not like the story is Kyle Pitts's like return to greatness kind of situation,
Right.
right? So you had the rookie season, comes out, almost breaks
Dicka's
you know
record.
Ditka's record, comes so close to getting it, but couldn't quite get there. And then had super high hopes coming out the next year, and it just didn't pan out. Then he gets injured. Then everybody's excited for him to come back next year. And we come to find out that throughout most of the last season, he probably wasn't 100% most of the season,
Right.
right? So now you get him another full off season. Now you get him another bunch of rest. You gives that knee a lot more time to heal up, for him to grow more confident in that knee. And now you get legit quarterback play, which the last time we saw legit quarterback play with Kyle Pitts, you had Matt Ryan, and he almost broke Ditka's rookie record.
Right. Right.
So and at a time when in those games where like legitimately he was probably like your one weapon in a
Yeah.
lot of those games that he would, because he didn't really start going off until like the second half of the season. He
Right.
was making some good plays here and there early in the season. Second half of the season is when he started kind of torching folks and doing making a lot of crazy plays, a lot of crazy catches. So just imagine if he had the full season, and that was what everybody was going through their heads, right? Now he can, if he takes the next step and he can have that kind of production they had in the second half of the season throughout an entire season. Oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think he's got the redemption angle, and so I think that's where the story is. Drake is Drake. We know what we're, and we believe we're going to get even more so out of him going forward with our new quarterback.
Right.
So and Bijan Robinson's gonna do Bijan Robinson things, and Tyler Algier is gonna be Tyler Algier. But this is the guy that everybody's like hoping can get back to what he was in his rookie season.
Yeah. And I think so. I just, like I said, I found it, as you talk about like pattern seeking. Yeah, I'm always looking, we're always looking for patterns. I'm definitely always looking for um like read between the lines kind of thing, especially in a world that is such like so calculated on what they do release. It's almost more about what they don't say versus what they do say type situations. So
Yeah.
yeah, I found that to be real interesting. Nick brings up a good point. We were talking about 100 days till kickoff. That's 73 days until the first Falcons preseason game.
Just a little over 2 months.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I like it. I
Yeah.
like it. We're probably going to be at the only one here. We're going to do everything we can to be at that one. I love going to preseason games.
Yeah.
They're just, to me, they're just a lot of fun, and they're much more reasonably priced tickets. So,
That is a big thing. And who knows how much longer we'll be able to get these reasonably priced tickets if the NFL has their way and Goodell has their way. A lot of people are like they don't like the preseason at all.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, no.
so
And our good buddy Savion Mixon, who's writing for sportingnews.com now, covering the Falcons, like he's even commented and did an article on like the noticeably more expensive tickets for the Falcons this year. Like the buzz of having, Kirk Cousins here, so to speak, like has allowed them to drive the price up a little bit more. Like last year we went to the Texans game and we got the two tickets that we got for decently priced.
we're
Um,
like what, 50, $60.
I think like grand total where we were in the 200 sections. It was a little over $100 a ticket. It wasn't like
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm talking about
Yeah.
the game we went to, not the preseason
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
The preseason game was like 40 or $50 a ticket
Oh,
or
yeah.
something like that.
So, yeah,
But
my brother was hitting me up, talking about going to the Chiefs game, and he was like, "Yeah, the tickets for those are getting kind of crazy." He's like, "Yeah, the cheapest tickets he could find at that time, that was like a week and a half ago. He was like, the cheapest tickets he could find for that game right now was $150. That was nosebleed."
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And like for us to essentially go to the same caliber of game against the same caliber of opponent and sit in roughly the same area that we sat last year, that me and you sat watching that Texans game, would cost pretty much double what we paid last year for about the same price. And I was like, good Lord, that's just probably going to have to, may just end up having to skip a game this year, which will suck,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. Nighthawk has a good point here. He says if Bijan was out there, they'd be showing him also. I'm interested. I don't
Well,
know.
that's true. Yeah. So Bijan hasn't been there. But again, the problem is like if we go by based on what happened last year, and if we go based on what we probably can expect based on past usage in this kind of offense, not that he won't get catches or touches through the air, but he's probably not going to get like seven. He's not going to be a major feature out of the passing game like you would have Pitts, Drake, Mooney, those guys. He's going to be your outlet. He's going to be your safety valve,
Mhm.
kind of a situation. And you'll sprinkle in some featured plays. Whether that's uh, what's the word I'm looking for?
Something like
Not. not draws, screens.
Oh yeah, some
Uh,
screens and stuff
you know,
like
so
that.
there'll be some screenplays there. I'm sure there'll be some things where they try to scheme up him on like a wheel route or things like that. But that's not going to be a major function. So if we're talking about looking at passes from Cousins or Penix or whoever, you're going to see some Bijan, and yeah, they might put some in there. But I still think that the story that I think you can really run with that can get people like to pay attention to what you're doing is the redemption or the return to greatness, whichever way you want to look at it, of a
Right.
Kyle Pitts.
Tony Rice saying that, well, we need to get in contact with Big Low. Apparently, Big Low's got the connections. So yeah, I may have to reach out to Low.
Yeah, Lo, come on, man,
That's
come
right.
on,
They can't be
yeah,
holding out on
hook
us
us
like
up,
that.
hook us up, brother.
Um, oh man, say that name for me.
Marcus
Americus.
Cummings.
There we go. Okay. He says, "What's good, pound for pound family? I would like to hear your thoughts on how good do you really feel about the offense? Will we be, and do you feel will we have a top 5 or top 10 defense or offense?" Um. Okay. That's an interesting that's an interesting question. That's an interesting thought because I really feel like I read a really good article today by Daniel Flick, who's been on the show a time or two, and he was talking about the field familiarity of Kirk Cousins with this system, right? Because you could really say, and I'm gonna steal this from another post on Twitter. Um, you could really say, like, you can almost make the argument that Kirk Cousins is like patient zero for this offense because all these guys that he's under or worked with or whatever, a lot of those guys were in the same rooms in Washington. And that's where a lot of this stuff got like trusted from. Like that's
Right.
where the backbone of it, that's where the the structure, the architect of this offense started. And then it goes it like splinters all over the NFL from there. From Kevin Stefanski, who's now the Browns head coach. He was the OC for Kirk Cousins for a handful of years in Minnesota before Kevin O'Connell got there. Where did Kevin O'Connell come from? Kevin O'Connell came from under Sean McVay. Where was Sean McVay at? Sean McVay was, in Washington before he got hired to LA. So all this stuff like stems off of. And I think, to be completely honest with you, that's why whether they fell in love with Penix afterwards or not, I think that's why it got like they laser focused um on the uh on the offense that or Kirk Cousins. That's what I'm sorry. Train of thought, lost it. Sorry. Okay. So but that's why I feel like they like laser focused on Kirk Cousins. And they laser focus on Kirk Cousins because you have a first time play caller in Zach Robinson. And in that first time play caller, where'd he come from? He came from working with Sean McVay, right?
Yep.
Out there in LA. So to make it even easier transition for Zach Robinson, you get a veteran guy who's seen it all, who knows the system, right? They even make comments where it was TJ Yates talking about Kirk Cousins is almost as much of a coach right now as he is the quarterback, as he's helping the other coaches themselves like learn the system as well, right? The other QB coaches, the ones that are in that room, um, which some people may read that and go, "Oh man, these coaches don't know what they're looking at." That's hyperbole. I actually think it's a good thing because one of the best ways to learn something is to try to explain it to somebody else. It's to use that knowledge that you have to try to convey that knowledge to someone else So if Kirk Cousins is over here, you know, teaching the offense to the coaches, that means he's dumping his knowledge and his experience, which is then allowing the coaches to go, okay, this is what he knows. So we don't need to
Yep.
spend a ton of time going over this. This is a long-winded way of getting back to your question is how good do I feel about this offense? Right now, this offense is going to go as far as Kirk Cousins is going to go this year. And I actually feel like I feel like we can do pretty good. You pair that with a relatively, quote unquote, relatively easy schedule, by a lot of different metrics. I think we have a chance to be good in the NFC South. If Kirk Cousins comes back to 80% or 90% of what he was before he got hurt, he's by far and away the best quarterback in the NFC South.
Yes.
So, like, how good can that be? Depends on what they really, the part that actually intrigues me about all this is, something Zach Robinson said on like an interview they had, which was uh talking about the run game that they already had in place here. Because it doesn't sound like they're trying to totally scrap some of the offensive things that they were doing. Hence, you kept Dwayne Ledford and you kept Michael Petrie and you promoted Dwayne Ledford to run game coordinator. So you gave him a little bit more like input on the offense versus just being the O-line coach. So I'm going to be really interested to see what they cobble together. Like what does this like amalgamation look like? Because so far, according to the people who have been allowed to watch OTAs and been allowed to watch these practices, they've ran strictly in 11 personnel. They have not practiced anything out of a 12 personnel, out of a 13 personnel, which is interesting because you went out and paid Charlie Warner not an insignificant amount of money for a blocking tight end.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What's your thoughts on the chances of us having a top 10 offense?
I mean, I think the chances are uh, at this point of the year as good as anybody's. Um, assuming offensive line stays healthy, assuming offensive line plays at least to what they played last year, last 2-3 seasons really, but especially last year. If we get some improvement from if Bergeron keeps improving, so then you have Bergeron and Dahlman, kind of bracketing Dahlman. And if Dahlman continues his better, continues to get better as he's done the last couple seasons, and McGarry can at least give us what he gave us last year for most time, and maybe a little bit better on the pass blocking. But I don't necessarily expect him to get a ton better. But if he can give us just a little bit more in the pass blocking arena, then that would be cool. But I think honestly, for the most part, like one of the biggest problems that we had the last couple seasons is you had guys that in the quarterback spot who either didn't know where they were supposed to go, or even if they knew, they weren't trusting what they were seeing, so they were holding on to the balls longer, which is going to make your offensive line look worse.
Yeah.
Right. So if Cousins is the guy we think he is, which everything coming out of camp, everything coming out of the OTAs, people like you said that have been watching it, this guy's super crisp, really good leader in the huddle. Like he's good. He looks the part. He looks like the Kirk Cousins that you paid for.
Right.
Right. So if we get that Kirk Cousins, then you have a guy that goes out there, runs the play, looks at the defense, and probably knows pre-snap in 90% of the cases exactly where he's going to be able to go. And then he still goes through his progressions, and then he goes and puts the ball where it needs to go, and he gets the ball out quick. Gets the ball out quick, he's going to make McGarry look a whole lot better.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just like at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. So if that offensive line can maintain at bare minimum, it's what it's done the last year or two, but especially last year in the pass game, give Cousins the at least 3 seconds to be able to go through and figure out where the ball needs to go and get rid of it. Then I think this offense can be really really good.
Yeah.
If by some chance, the when we get to the regular season, Kirk Cousins devolves into Washington Kirk Cousins somehow or another. If that were to happen, then yeah, we might have some. I still think we could probably be a better offense than we've been the last couple of years, but I think that we're not in the upper echelons. But I think if you get, like you said, and like I've said before, you give me the Kirk Cousins that started the year up until he got injured. You give me that Kirk Cousins this coming season. He's one of at that point with the way he was playing last year, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah.
Bar
Yeah,
none.
no, right. If he can, that's why I say even at the onset of the season, if you can give me 80-90% of what that was,
Yeah.
that's going to be far and away better than anything we've had the past 2 years. And it's going to rival, the more effective nature of what we had 3 years ago. So, um, let's see. King Seven's got a good question. Says, do you guys see a need for a defensive back? It's Alford and Clark Phillips fighting for a spot, but two undersized DBs, height and weight. They got big receivers in their face, two-face, and Clark gets grabby with big guys fighting for position. It's definitely something to consider. Like, I'm not even trying to be like funny here. Like, we could do a whole segment on like what position is still needed. Like where could I could easily see before the start of training camp or not too much into training camp. Like right now, who's still like there's some relatively big names as far as I know Dory Jackson I think is still out on the market. Um let's see.
I've not been paying attention to who if anybody's gotten pulled up or not, but
I'm gonna pull it up real quick because there's some names that like cornerback wise that I'm keeping an eye on. Let's see. Do. Come on. Work with me faster, please. Um
I just want to add while you're doing that
yeah, go
and
ahead.
waiting for that thing to do its thing, we should all rejoice in happiness. If you're a Braves fan or a baseball fan at all, Angel Hernandez has retired. So baseball as a general sport is better off today than it was yesterday.
Right. And well, other than the fact if you want to add in the fact that Ronald Acuna is out for the year, which is not good.
That's not
That
good, but
sucks. But
that does suck. But
um
I will take Angel Hernandez retiring and not no longer being able to be just the most miserable and bad that I've probably ever seen in my entire life.
so right now, like the top three guys or top 4 or 5 guys, like you have Xavier Howard still out on the market. Um JC Jackson, which he had a horrible year last year, which is probably
Yeah.
why he's still out on the market. But Adoree Jackson, Cameron Sutton, and Stephon Gilmore. So um, now you're not wrong, Tony, in the sense of like he goes, I don't believe Xavier will work well for the Falcons. Uh, he fits a different he might fit a different type system, but that's been the interesting thing, and I'm gonna try to I might record a video this week or it might be next week. I'm not sure, but kind of like I did with the front seven this past week, looking at like the coverage structures, really trying to figure out what they're going to be looking for. And a guy like Clark Phillips might fit some of the structures that they potentially could be dropping out there. But yeah, I could easily see them adding in another corner because Akio Witherspoon is still out there who has familiarity. Um, and he would probably come pretty cheap. Same thing with there was an intriguing guy, Jerry Jacobs, that they had their eye on. I don't think he signed with anybody. They were going to bring him in, but
Well, I'll say this: if you're going to bring in, a cornerback, okay, in free agency, at this point, because I mean, yeah, you could say Ikea Witherspoon, you could say a couple of guys. Are they really going to be that much better than like the Kings of the world that we
yeah, like
brought in
Kevin
already?
King, the
Are they
Hamilton.
really going to be that much better than those guys? All right. So at this point, I'm going to say, uh, like they have enough guys there right now to fill out the squad. Now,
Right,
what they think of those guys for sure, we'll know more as the OTAs, and if they make a move, then obviously that'll tell us something, right? But if they don't make a move, that also tells us something. And that is that they like what they're seeing, whether that's
right,
from Alfred, whether that's from Clark Phillips. Um, it doesn't really matter. Uh, because they're liking what they're seeing out of those guys. And to be completely honest, like instead of going to spending money in free agency on a DB that, you know, for all we know, there's a good reason why they're still available, right? Like a lot of people are not very confident that they can get the job done, so why
mm.
pay them the money that they're asking for?
And
And in
that's
that,
always yeah, that's
well,
always the thing.
and in that scenario, I'm kind of in the mindset of let's let the young guys play. Let's figure out what they got. Do they have anything? Do they have any juice? If they've got juice and they can play in this league, hey, cool. That's money you don't got to spend elsewhere.
Right. And the other one I would think I would be looking at some, an edge rusher maybe, but even like looking at that market of who's still out there, there's nobody that really screams at you that's going to be worth the price. Maybe if you, like you said, they just spent 3 draft picks on defensive line, so it wouldn't surprise me one bit if it was, hey, let's let the young guys play.
Yep.
Let's let you know Jimmy Lake do what he can do. Him and Jerry Gray with the young guys.
Yep.
Um, so
And again, I know we've talked about it plenty of times before. Like when it comes to the DB room, there is so much coaching talent on this roster that at some point in their careers they have been dedicated to DB coaching.
yep,
So I am, that does that mean they can't make mistakes and think they got something and they don't? No, it doesn't mean that. But I'm more, I'm less worried about how that DB room is going to turn out at this point in time than I am other areas of the team, simply because I just don't think that if there was anything that was seriously wrong with the DBs that we currently have, or if they honestly felt like there was not like they needed something there, that something would have gotten
right.
done. So
I tend to agree, and which has made me relook at the position of like Richie Grant. Like right now, everybody likes to dump on Richie Grant, but it may be a deal where um, what he was being asked to do last year may not have fit him too well, and maybe they have a different role for him this year. Depending, we'll see. Um, his follow up question, pound for pound family. I have one more question, if that's okay. Yes, of course, it's okay.
absolutely, man.
He says, "How would you feel about a personnel package with Algier in the backfield and Bijan in the slot? Do you think that could be effective?" We kind of touched on that with the party like it's 2017 video we did when we were talking about like how the Rams used Todd Gurley. Um, and honestly, it was a point that Jonathan made. By putting Bijan in the slot, now you're putting a more experienced coverage person on Bijan,
Yep.
which may not necessarily yield the results that you're wanting. Could you do that from time to time? Sure. Um, I could actually see them doing more of a just backfield, with Bijan and almost like the old like not wing T, but like the old like T formation.
Yep.
Um,
The pro style.
the pro,
Where,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, when you're playing Madden, the pro style formation, I could
Yep.
see them doing something like that and getting creative and having one or if not both of those guys coming out of the backfield. But
Yep.
putting him, directly in the slot then dictates that, oh, okay, I'm going to put a corner over him or a safety,
Yep.
which they may have a better chance at defending a pass where you want to get him lined up on a linebacker.
Yeah, because even the Jag cornerbacks out there, like the just a guy cornerbacks, like they're good enough to on frequently enough to be able to cover even some of the better receivers in the league. Now they can't do it all day long, right? They're gonna get burned at some point, but they're good enough that they can handle like spot duty, handling some maybe not the Justin Jeffersons of the world, right? But you give them like some of the better wide receivers that are not the top tier, and they can still cover those guys pretty good. So, and those are guys that have been doing nothing but running routes their entire careers,
Right.
right? So they should know how to get open, and they do know how to get open. It's just the NFL cornerback on average is really really good. So you put him out there with a running back, and some of those even those just a guy cornerbacks, they got the agility, they got the makeup speed, they got the twitchiness that a guy like Bijan Robinson who can run routes, but he's not going to run the crisp routes like you're going to see from wide receivers, some of the best wide receivers, and they're going to be able to cover him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you want to be a little bit more creative with how you get him out in space. Which is something like I said, something me and you covered in that video we did talking about how you can implement Bijan in the passing game to be a little bit more successful, and we highly encourage you to go check that one out. All right. Now, earlier today, some little bit of like league news broke. I don't know if you want to call it news per se, but it's the NFLPA is working to finalize a proposal. So hear that part right, a proposal to overhaul the offseason workout program. Right now, we're in the midst of the phase 3 of the like early spring off season workout
Mm-hmm.
program, which phase 3 is the mandatory for the Falcons. Their mandatory OTAs, I think, is next week, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on, let me see if I can
I
find
think
that.
so.
But anyway, so what it looks like they're attempting to do uh, is the NFLPA, which that's the Players Association. Okay, let's get this typed up right. Typing and talking at the exact same time is not the
That can lead to issues.
yes, that can lead to some weird things. Anyway,
Uh,
I was trying to find dates. I don't nobody has yeah. Anyway, never mind. Twitter's not helping me. So um what they're trying to do, let's see here.
see, voluntary mini camp,
So give
April
me
27th.
mandatory mini camp is what I was looking for because I
Oh,
think that's next week.
so OTA off season workouts, May 13th through the 14th, May 16th, then May 20th and 21st, May 23rd. So those have already happened,
Correct.
and then you're going to have June 3rd, 4th, through 3rd, 4th, and the 6th.
Yeah, the third, fourth, and the sixth, that's the ones that's happening next week. All right.
Um, well, yeah, so they've already had a lot of mandatory workouts
Yeah, I think they have
at this
one
point.
more and then they're breaking for the summer.
Yeah, yeah. So June 6th will be the last off-season workout before they report for camp, essentially.
Exactly. So what the NFLPA is trying to do is consider pushing for changes for the offseason program. The NFL, they're finalizing an overhaul to the offseason starting as soon as next year, eliminating voluntary on-field workouts in the spring in favor of a longer training camp ramp up. The players reporting in mid-June to early, with players reporting to mid-June to early July. Um, a formal proposal is expected this summer. Let's see, I'm trying to see if it would give. Okay, for most clubs, the off-season program starts mid-April and runs through mid-June. A roughly 6-week summer break that lasts until training camp, often in mid to late July. Off-season workout rules collectively bargained. So this change would have to come, like, it would have to be basically be an agreement with the NFL. There's no,
Mhm.
the NFLPA holds no leverage here because they've already
Well,
collectively bargained for the structure that they have right now.
yeah.
So this is just them saying, hey, look, guys, this is what we would like to do. Um, we have consulted with a lot of medical and performance experts to create a solution to reduce injuries and maximizing players' recovery time. That's their kind of like, a lot of times when you want to get something pushed and passed, you say it's for the kids. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
think about the children. So for them, it's like, let's reduce injuries. You say you're all about safety, and you're all about player safety. Let's maximize it then. Let's actually do something that will uh, help that. So, under the potential proposal, virtual classroom workout would still be permitted in the spring, but no practices, no on field stuff until camp. Now, it says virtual. So, I wonder how that would go. Like, especially, I think for like, they would probably agree to it in a sense of, hey, we still need to be able to meet with rookies because we got to get them up to speed. Rookies and free agents, players who haven't been in the system, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
But I mean, like, okay, so if they essentially get rid of the spring workouts, and you're still going to end up having like a month and a half break, right? Until what, mid June, and then you're gonna do all. You basically take all those mandatory workouts that you were doing before and just move them to later in the year. So you're going to get the same amount of workouts. You're going to get the same amount of practices. At least that's what I'm assuming they're not talking about cutting out any practices. They're simply saying instead of doing it at this time frame of the year, we move it to this time frame of the year, and that leads right into training camp. So there's no there's no, hey, we're going to do a bunch of practices, then we're going to break for a month and a half. Make sure you're studying your playbook. Make sure you're doing this and that and the other, and then they basically go off for a month and a half on their own. I'm sure especially guys who are injured, they're still going to get treatments, and go in and talk to the training staff and all that jazz. But at the end of the day, they're essentially on their own for like a month and a half.
well, then
So
what this is saying, or is that the restructuring the NFL's offseason could help break up the calendar, giving players a deeper layoff following a grinder season and a longer ramp up period, um, before
yeah,
the start of the season. So, which I mean, I'm like, to me, from my thought process, it makes a lot of sense, and Willie even says, this makes more sense to me anyway. Right. It's like, if you're done, like, you're done you obviously, let's say you don't go to the Super Bowl. Only two teams really have to worry about that aspect of it. But let's say you're done, into January, right? Early February. If you don't have to worry about doing any form of, because nowadays, like, this stuff's a year round business anyway. These guys don't just go home and sit on the couch for, 6 months or whatever it is until they're not using training camp to get back into shape. They're using training camp to get back into game shape, so to speak.
yes,
Like, these guys, you see the clips, you see it on social media. They're working out on their own year round. But if you don't have, like, as a player, if you don't have to be in that that game mode mindset for a longer stretch. It's a bigger stretch. That might be, better suited.
Yeah, and I think you get guys like once you get them into training, you're basically if this new uh, process were to take place, you would essentially once the guys report for the off season training before training camp. Once they report, you basically have hands on with them until until uh, whether it's late December, early January, late January, early February, depending on how deep you go.
Right.
You basically like can have your hands on them for that entire time, and there's less. It's sort of like one of the things that I kind of yes, I liked having summer break as a kid, but like looking back on it, it's kind of like, okay, so we're going to take 3 months. It's not kids don't get 3 months nowadays, but we used to get 3 months growing up, and you would go through the entire year, learn a bunch of stuff, then you go 3 months not thinking about school, not thinking about anything else, and then next thing you know, you're coming back after 3 months, and then they're like, okay, so you remember everything from last year, right? All right, here's new stuff, pack it
Right.
on top, and it's like, no, I forgot all this stuff, but so once you start teaching these guys and you start getting into the installs and you start getting into this and that and the other, if you can maintain that through the off season stuff right into training camp, and then you go into the training camp installs and you start doing all that stuff, then yeah, I like as a and we're going to talk about this in a second why maybe some of the coaches wouldn't want to do this, but from if I'm strictly looking at it from a coaching pro football player's perspective, not having to worry about, okay, we did all this install stuff. Now we're going to let you go for a month and a half. Make sure you're paying attention and studying your playbook. Make sure you're keeping in shape and all this other stuff. But I can keep my hands on them the whole time, and they don't have this break where maybe some of the stuff slips out of their brain a little bit. Then absolutely, I would be down with that.
Yeah. I,
So,
yeah, I think that longer ramp up, like, starting, especially if you're allowed to at least have a little bit of virtual classroom type stuff with your rookies. Um,
yeah,
I think that would be beneficial. But yeah, getting your hands on them earlier in the summer, leading up to the season, I would think be more beneficial. But also, like, something I saw, like, I heard that there's a lot of pushback right now from the coaches and the front offices, like front office staff, with the idea that, hey, you're killing my chance to be with my family in a sense, like,
yeah,
by doing this, because with coaches and with the front office types, like, they spend so much time, like, at the facility, um, that Willie Dykes says, "I will study before training camp." Wink, wink. No, you won't. I'll be studying the bottom of a bottle of Cabo Wabo.
yep.
But no, like, it's like some of the coaches, like,
See how far these beaches actually stretch.
that's right. Some of the things I've heard is like the idea that, hey, this is when I get to the last vestige of spending the summer with my kids before I go back in and become a coach, which is coaches spend more time than players do at the facility,
Yeah,
by a long shot. Like, coaches meetings go into the, like, 1 a.m.s and 2 a.m.s, and, like, if you've ever read, like, the structure of a coach's week, it's insane. Uh,
yeah,
and so I could see how they themselves would push back on not having that chunk, but you could say, "Look, dude, you got it, during you could spend more of your week with the kids, like, in the sense of a normal week could be part of their normal lives, go to their school functions, or either way, it'll all get worked out." But I think a lot of this is honestly, I think this is the players preemptively trying to get a piece of leverage before the NFL itself comes at them with an 18th game. Because I really feel like that's coming, like an 18
Oh
game
yeah.
schedule.
Oh yeah. No,
And
it'll
like,
whether it's this year, next year, a couple years from
right.
now, 5 years from now, whatever, it's coming.
And I think, I honestly think that this is the NFLPA's like, okay, if you want an 18th game, we're going to want this. Even though they say this isn't a response to the 18th game, I really feel like this is like, okay, fine. If you're going to want to go to 18 games, we're probably going to ask for an extra bye week and then, you know, restructure the offseason to where the players have a longer time, a more consistent time to decompress and heal up
Yep.
from this 18 game season that you're going to want to put us through. I
Yep.
really feel like that's what this is leading towards myself.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and hey, more power to them. Like honestly, like the somehow, some way, the NFLPA needs to figure out a way to get more power.
Yeah.
They have to do it. They are by far the weakest of the player unions
Oh yeah.
between the
Big
NBA
time.
and MLB players union. They are super strong. But that's just not the case in the NFL. They are under some new leadership, so maybe this is part of that, like trying to work their way into getting into being a more powerful union. So hopefully, and I'm totally down for that. But and I'll say this just from a content creator slash media sphere person, like I would be totally down for this because think about it. We're about right now to get to June. And in a couple weeks, we'll be about mid June, which is when a lot of this stuff would probably start to occur, right? If they move to this. And so this is, we're just about to be in the dead part. Okay.
Right.
Um, if we look at it from a content creator standpoint, all the way up until this point of the season, we have been, or the year, we have been able to do, talk about a lot of different things. Whether that's the playoffs at the end of the season, what any moves that the team made as far as coaching moves made, any moves that were made as part of free agency, any moves that were made, you talk about the combine, then you're talking about uh, the draft, and then now post draft. Like I conceivably we could have the draft late April. We could stretch out enough stuff to talk about for a month and a half, and we could narrow our dead time down to like a week, 2 weeks, something like that, to where we're really scratching the bottom of the barrel trying to figure out stuff to talk about before the OTAs start kicking off, and then
And then you have,
and then
yeah.
the excitement starts to ramp up, and that doesn't stop again until the following May.
I mean, that's what, Nick's saying here, let the hype be real instead of, you get this month of, month, 2 month of almost like manufactured hype. And we all are looking towards training camp, towards feeling the feeling of being back. Like you don't really get that until the start of training camp.
Yep.
Like the OTAs are fun and all that other stuff, and I thought that they had done a good job the last few years by letting fans come watch an OTA practice. Um, but that wasn't the case this year. So it will be interesting to see like how this shakes out. But I really think that this is the NFLPA's way of like trying to gather more moment or leverage or gather something that they can have for when the NFL comes at them for the 18th game. Uh, because I really think that's going to probably come before the next bargaining agreement is even up for debate.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, this is definitely like long term thinking towards the next collective bargaining agreement.
correct,
Like
correct.
that is exactly what this is.
Yep. All right. Well, all right. Somebody of our good buddy Savion put out a post on Twitter that I'm going to attempt to pull up real quick, and that I thought was really good. There he is. And the question that he posed, I probably ain't gonna be able to find it quick enough, but I remember it. The question that he posed was, who is your top 5 of the roster?
Yep. I was actually thinking about bringing that up.
Yeah. So who is that's what we're going in today's, and so I want the chat to get involved here too. So who is your 5? I'm gonna put up my 5, which I'm gonna have to make an amendment because like my brain locked up in a sense. But my 5 that I put was, get to my daggone profile here. You would think a better podcaster would have all this stuff at his fingertips. Anyway, so my 5, he says, who are your top 5 Falcons on the current roster? I put 1 being Chris Lindstrom because I just don't feel like he gets a ton of love from fans. This isn't no like particular order. This is just my 5. Chris Lindstrom, Grady Jarrett, Drake London, Jesse Bates, and Bijan Robinson. So that was my 5. Jonathan, who do you think, off the top of your head, who are your 5?
I mean, it really depends.
Your top 5.
If we're talking, um, as far as like just best players,
Yeah, best players on it.
then I'm gonna say, I'm probably gonna say Lindstrom number 1. I think he, as of right now, is probably the best player on the team. Like if we're just talking talent wise, and guy being the best at what he does,
Yep.
I think he's the top guy because he's obviously one of if not the top guard in the NFL right now. So I think Lindstrom is number 1. Pre-injury, Grady Jarrett. We'll see if he can get back to that after injury, because I think this is the first like real major injury he's had in his career. He may have had another injury at some point earlier in his career, but it seems like it's been a while since he's been really injured.
Right.
He's may have been nicked up here and there where he had to miss a game or two, but nothing like what he had last year. So we'll see how he comes, and
So
he's getting up there.
So you got Lindstrom,
Yeah,
you got Grady.
Grady. I'm gonna say, honestly, I'm gonna say Kirk Cousins, number
Cousins.
3.
Okay.
Then Bijan, then probably Drake.
Bijan and Drake. Okay, that's good. Millie says Kirk, Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Jesse Bates. I think that's a solid list too.
I
My
think
original,
yeah. Bates
like
could go
Bates
there.
slipped my mind because my original was Caden Ellis, and then somebody was like, "What? No Bates?" And I was like, "Ah, crap! Nah,
Yeah.
Bates has got to be, he's got to be in there over Caden Ellis."
Yep.
So because I was trying to think like outside of the box, so to speak, because not saying that it's wrong, but it's easy to be all like, Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson.
Well,
And
but if you're just going off of like again, if we're talking about who do we feel like is maybe gonna who do you think is gonna have the most impact? Is it gonna be a Bates or is it gonna be Ellis? Ellis potentially could be really crucial if the guy gets 7, 8, 9 sacks in the year.
right, depends on how he gets used. Like I really thought he played really well as like being a first time full time starter. I actually thought he played really well last year, and so that's what had brought him to mind. Even though like Bates had
but now, if you think about it, do you consider Caden Ellis at his position, inside linebacker, middle linebacker, or weak side linebacker, strong side, whatever? But he's an inside linebacker.
right.
Do you consider him one of the top inside linebackers at his position in the NFL today?
No, like
Okay,
when I think of inside linebacker, I think of Fred Warner.
Right.
right now,
Yes.
and so, but when you think of safety, like Jesse Bates is
Is up
one of the
there.
first ones, that comes to mind,
Right. So
and
that's what I was saying from a pure talent perspective. Then yeah, Jesse Bates gets in over Ellis all the time. But I think as a person that could potentially have impact, Ellis could be a bigger name for the Falcons in that scenario than a Bates would be. But I think
okay,
just strictly from a talent perspective, I think that Bates probably should be top five over. I would, and I'm going to go ahead and say top five over, like, take Drake London out of my list and put Bates in it, because I
right.
think I think he's in his position, he is one of the top guys at his position. Whereas I think Drake potentially could be. We just haven't seen that yet from him, and we'll see if we get it from him.
King 7 says Grady, Bates, Bijan, Pitts, and Drake, which I think
Pitts,
is
Pitts, we'll see.
well. All right, so I'm going to change it up a little bit as we start to wind this thing down. Who are the 5 you are most excited to see? Not like
Okay.
not what you think are the best. So, who are the top 5 that you are most excited to watch this year? For me, it's going to be like top 2. I want to see what Pitts and Drake look like this year with an established veteran accurate QB. Like those two are, and then I'm really excited to see, does Ebiketie take a step as now being, like, as of right now, nobody in front of him to take snaps, like as far as being an edge rusher. So does Ebiketie take that step, right? And then I'm really excited to see what, like, how does Darnell Mooney look? Is he going to be
Yeah.
worth the money as a true number 2?
I mean, he has the potential. I mean, we've
Right,
seen it. Like, he
right.
can do it, but can he do it consistently?
And then uh on the defensive side of the ball, I would say the just Clark Phillips or like CB2. Like that's the position I'm, so is it Clark Phillips or is it like, does Kevin King return to form? Like,
Yeah.
so who are you most excited to see? Man, Millie's
Um,
got a good one here.
I am most excited to see probably my number one most excited, because I honestly think if he gets more of the snaps, we could really see something out of him, and that's AK-47. I think Ebiketie is a guy that I think could potentially, like, really blow up this year. So I'm excited to see it, but I'm also equally as excited to see uh, Braylon Trice, Brandon Dorless. I'm really excited for what those guys might be able to do. I'm excited for. I think I'm in agreement with you that I'm excited for Drake and Pitts finally getting good quarterback play.
Right, right. Millie says Troy Anderson,
Yeah,
Dorless, Kirk, AK, and Zach Harrison.
Zach
Zach
Harrison's another
Harrison's
one.
another one. Yeah, that's another good. And King 7 says, just think we get to see Drake with a decent QB for the first time. He's going to be a beast. And
He
that's,
didn't even get
he
almost
didn't almost
almost
dead
out of the
armed.
league.
Yeah, right.
Matt Ryan.
Yeah, he didn't even get dead armed Matt Ryan. Like, he's had to deal with Mariota and Ritter, and still was putting up, you know, decent numbers for a second year player. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, those are ones I'm excited to see. That's like, that prospect is like part of what keeps me like glued to what the Falcons are doing. Is to see what these guys look like,
Yeah.
what this offense looks like, what Bijan is going to look like.
And I think what drives my excitement for, like, a Braylon Trice and a Dorless, and I'll agree, like Zach Harris, like, really the pass rush guys are going to be, I think, are going to probably be. I mean, yeah, you're going to have probably Grady Jarrett get some sacks, but I don't think he's I'm not expecting him to get close to double digits. I'm expecting like 5, 6, 7 sacks, somewhere in that range. But like, I'm excited for Ebiketie. I'm excited for Trice. I'm excited for Dorless. I'm excited for Zach Harrison. I know somebody somewhere, you know, let's see, who was it that usually does that? Tony, I think is the one that usually brings him up. But like Malone, until I see
Oh yeah,
more, until I actually see him get on the field, I'm not even going to bring up his name. Yeah,
nah,
he might be a guy. He might not. I have no idea. He
right.
sounds like he did pretty good in college, but he hasn't done squat since he's been in the. And even when he's been on the field, he hasn't exactly looked great. So
I mean, I'll say this: like in college, he was fun to watch. I enjoyed watching him. He jumped out at the Senior Bowl that year I was down there. But like you said, as of right now, he hasn't been able to make it onto the field consistently. Whether that was from a different like scheme perspective or whatever it was.
yep.
Now you're getting back to more of a 3-4
If
look, so this should open up an opportunity.
if this guy was giving you any juice in practice at all that he could get after the passer, like anything, this team of any team out there
Yeah,
would
would have.
love to have would have loved to put you out on the field because we need a pass rush like nobody's business.
Yep.
Right. So if you're on a pass rush starved team as a pass rusher and you can't get on the field, likely because you're not putting forth the effort in
Yeah, I
practice.
don't think it's the coaching staff that's holding you back. You
No,
know,
no.
um, Milia says, out of all these young pass rushers we got, do you think which one do you think could move Onyemata out the door? Um, Dorless, maybe not Dorless. No, Zion Loge really could at the end after this year could move Onyemata out the door because if they're looking for a more of a everywhere that Lake has been, he's had a true nose tackle. And right now, the starting DTs we have, Grady and Onyemata, aren't true nose tackles. They both played it and they can do it.
Yeah.
But if he's looking for like a true space eating, like hard to move nose tackle, then I could see them after this year moving on from Onyemata as and letting Zion take over in that
Well,
aspect.
I mean, I think in a perfect world, Zion Loge or somebody else, whoever it is, whether it's this year, next year, whatever. But once you find your true like nose tackle guy in a base 3-4 or nickel 3-4, whatever that looks like, I think Grady Jarrett and Onyemata are your two best starting 3-4 defensive ends.
Yeah.
And then you have a guy like a Zach Harrison as an outside linebacker on one side. You got Arnold Ebiketie or Braylon Trice on the other side, or Braylon Trice, in rotation with Zach Wheeler or Zach Harrison. Uh,
Sorry.
uh, Baseball just jumped into my
I was about
head.
to say,
Uh,
what the hell we talking about Zach Wheeler?
yeah,
Uh,
but yeah, I can see Onyemata and in a base 3-4 style defense, they're neither one of those guys is your nose tackle. Although maybe they could pull it off occasionally, but they're not the true nose tackle. They
well,
are
that's, I mean,
3-4 defensive ends. I think.
yeah, that's, nose tackle is kind of what he played in New Orleans with their defense they played there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that Zach Harrison, I can't shake the Michael Hoyt comparison. Like, because Hoyt was damn near 300 pounds
Mm-hmm.
as an outside linebacker. Because what we're going to play and what I talked about in that video is that penny front, that five man front. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times you had, Michael Hoyt, Aaron Donald, Greg Gaines, Kobe Turner, and Bryant Young. That's a huge like 5-man front
Yeah.
with the idea of, you know, making the running backs bounce outside to where they can get constantly bounced outside to where the linebackers scrape over they chase over the top and stay clean the whole time. Anyway, not really getting into all of that other than I think.
Yeah. Well, like Tony Wright, I think he puts it here really well.
I got it.
Yeah, the 3-4 D line, Zach Harrison on one side, Grady Jarrett on the other, David Onyemata in the middle, and then on the outside you got say
Ebiketie on. Yeah.
Ebiketie and Trice on either side.
Right.
And I think that is a potentially really good sort of NASCAR type package where you get a bunch of guys that can rush the passer because Onyemata can rush the passer.
Yeah.
Obviously, Grady can, Zach can, and we believe that Trice can. We know Ebiketie can because guy gets almost tied for lead in sacks for the team with like half the snaps of everybody else.
Right.
So, like, you give him the same amount of snaps, he's going to give you those sack numbers are going to come. But I think, you're going to have that. That's your like, hey, we want a bunch of big bodies just in case you run, but this is what we're going to use to come after you.
Yep.
I think
Millie follows it up like, where does Zoe Carter fit in? He's a rotational guy. Like, he's going to like. I don't think you're going to have Trice start. Like, I think you're going to see a steady rotation of Trice and Carter as Trice gets his feet wet. And same thing, like I think Carter is going to Carter may be your starter, and they rotate Trice in. And same thing with Dorless and Harrison, because I think Dorless is going to be more of that 4-eye, or at least that's what he did in college. We'll see what he does in the NFL, but yeah, they've got some, like Tony brings up the second string with Graham or James Smith Williams. Well, he says one of the two will be released. We'll see. And then, nose tackle Eddie Goldman, if he makes it through training camp. And we actually saw videos of him doing drill things.
I know. It was weird.
It was impressive. And then Katavius Street, which they brought back as well. So it's like they've got a pretty good mix. I'm interested to see how they mix the rookies in and how they deploy them.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
All right, folks. I think that's going to do it for us today. Somehow we managed to talk about football for over an hour, which I was skeptical
with nothing going on in the NFL. Really,
I was skeptical when we sat down. I was like, "We're going to end this thing in 30 minutes." But we pulled it off. Check us out. Anyway, like I said, no show next week. I'll be camping. Y'all pray that I ain't getting rained on. Because it's not looking good right now. But no show next week. But the following week we'll be back live, at least with a little bit of OTAs to talk about before we fully get into the dead season. Some point in time, whether it's this week or next, depending on what have you, I'll probably do a video talking about the coverage aspects. So keep your eye out for that. Jonathan, you got plans on maybe streaming?
If not this weekend, it'll definitely be next weekend. I might go out of town Saturday.
There you go.
We'll see if the wife is down for it. So
there it is. All right, folks. We as always, we appreciate y'all's support and y'all's attention. You can follow me on Twitter at McGrim1128. Jonathan
at Jonathan M. Holder. Come by, say hi.
There you go. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Rise up.